All right, I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Public Works this Tuesday, September 1st of 2020. First up, we have messages from the board. Do we have any messages from the board this evening?
I just saw this morning that Indiana's been listed a hot spot along with 3 other states, and so I just want to tell everyone to be safe as numbers are increasing, to be safe and be well.
Thank you. Next, we have petitions and remonstrances. That is an opportunity for anyone who would like to make public comment on an item that is not on the agenda this evening. Do we have any public comments on anything not on the agenda? Seeing none?
Yeah, I've seen none.
We will move on to the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda is the approval of minutes for August 18th of 2020. Approve noise permit for 2020 Lotus World Music Festival on Saturday, September 26th of 2020. Resolution 2020-46, approve renewal of mobile vendor and public right-of-way for Swacken LLC, and approval of the payroll register. Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none. Is there any public comment on any of the items within the consent agenda?
Again, if anyone would like to do public comment for any of the items in the consent agenda, please raise a hand or make a chat function. Use the chat function. I'm not seeing any here, Kyla.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have new business. First, under new business is Resolution 2020-37, approve order to remove structure at 1209 West 11th Street.
Yeah, this is Mike Arnold from Housing and Neighborhood Development. So this is one you tabled 2 weeks ago because there were some issues, some legal issues being ironed out. And I don't know if Daniel's on or not to talk about those.
We do have Daniel.
Daniel, do you want to talk about any of the legal update first, or you just want me to go through?
Mike, if you want to go ahead and go through kind of just first the basis for the request, and then I'm happy to provide an update just on the legal situation after that.
Okay. So this is a property that we started orders on in March of 2018 for orders to repair for a roof structure and a deteriorated roof on the house, as well as a deteriorated roof that was on a covered porch. We did orders. We didn't get any response or any work done. So that was in March of 2018. In December of 2018, we requested right of entry from the owners. That took a little while to get addressed and signed and okayed by the owner, which happened in March of 2019. Then for most of the rest of 2019, we tried to schedule time for contractors to look at the project to get bids. We did this at least, I think, 5 or 6 times and could not get any bids for the work to be done. As a result, the order to repair expired. So we started to do a new order to repair, and we got notice from our contact from one of the children of the owner and said that the owner was deceased and the children now own the property. We did a walkthrough of the property and made the decision that we were going to do orders to remove on the property, and orders to remove required that the board uphold a resolution for the order. Any questions?
Daniel, would you like to give the board just a quick update on the legal status? Anything from the last meeting, knowing we didn't take action then?
Sure. So part of the concern at the last meeting was just a question, and it was raised by the attorney who I believe represents the decedent's spouse. And that was a question about the ownership that came up. I don't know if they're here or not tonight, but I can, I've been tracking that case, and it's in the style of an eviction proceeding at this point. It doesn't seem that there's been any kind of counterclaims for title. From the perspective of the legal department and from hand, the ownership really doesn't matter. At this point, both parties who have a claim or interest in the property have been made aware of the order to remove. Whether it's going to be the children or the spouse that's going to end up being responsible for it, they can decide that amongst themselves. That doesn't really change whether or not the order to remove can be approved at this point. And so we would ask, and I believe that it would be appropriate at this time to move forward. If there's other questions, I'm happy to answer that as well.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I do have a question. If, I guess the order to remove is for October, is that when it has to be done by October?
The current
And
order.
if they don't, okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say yes. The current order is October 1st.
Okay, and if they don't remove, then the city puts a lien on the property. Is that the way this proceeds?
No, Mike, do you want to talk about kind of the next steps we would take at that point?
Yeah, so the next step, if we don't get removal by the owner or owners, then the city would move forward with contracting someone to do the removal for us in accordance with what we set up on the order to remove. Then we would send a billing statement to the owners, and if they don't pay the billing, then the city would pay that through the unsafe fund and put a lien on the property.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Are there any public comments on this item? All right, seeing no public comments, is there a motion from the board?
I move that we approve Resolution 2020-37, the order to remove structure at 1209 West 11th Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 2020-44, approve right-of-way encroachment agreement for 1100 North Crescent Road.
Property located at 1100 North Crescent Road are requesting approval for a recently installed safety railing as part of the Union at Crescent Development Project. The owners have worked with city staff regarding the addition of safety railing to the project after realizing there is a 2-foot plus drop off along the sidewalk that was installed along the south side of 14th Street. The request for encroachment includes a 66-foot long black powder coated railing bolted to the side of the sidewalk. The owners worked with city staff again for the approval and type of railing and specific mounting for the railing, and staff recommends approval of the encroachment agreement.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? Seeing none. Any public comment on this item?
I don't see any, Kyla.
Is there a motion from the board on this item?
I move that we approve Resolution 2020-44, the right-of-way encroachment agreement for 1100 North Crescent Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved street closure request from Kreider and Kreider on North Gates Drive from September 14th of 2020 through October 28th of 2020.
Good evening, this is Paul Kerberg with Planning and Transportation. Kreider and Kreider is requesting a full street closure on North Gates Drive from West Jonathan Drive to West Susan Drive. Kreider and Kreider has been awarded a contract from the Monroe County Board of Commissioners for the Profile Parkway Extension Project. And this closure will allow them to construct the roundabout at Gates Drive and Susan and Profile Parkway. They will maintain access to all the adjacent businesses, and all of the businesses have been notified. Kreider and Kreider is requesting the closure from September 14th, 2020 to October 28th, 2020. We've reviewed their maintenance of traffic plans, and we recommend approving the closure.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? Beth, did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. Thank you.
Any public comment on this item?
I don't see any, Kyla.
Okay, seeing no public comment, is there a motion on this item?
I move approval of the street closure request from Kreider and Kreider on North Gates Drive from September 14, 2020 to October 28th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have approved change order number 4 for the West Allen Traffic Calming Project.
Good evening, everyone. This is Russell White with City Planning and Transportation. This is a change order for the West Allen Street Traffic Calming Project. Just to refresh memories, this is the project where 2 raised crosswalks and 1 speed hump was installed on West Allen Street between South Adams and South Strong Drive. This change order is necessary to reconcile the original estimated item quantities with the final placed item quantities. In order to reconcile the contract, there were 7 items that needed to be adjusted. I won't go through all 7 of them unless there are specific questions, but what this change order will result in an increase of $1,289.75. If approved, it will adjust the total contract sum to $215,732.84. Staff has reviewed the final item quantities and recommends approval for change order number 4. If you have any questions.
Any questions from the board on change order number 4?
When will the project be completed, Russell?
The project is actually completed. This was just a final payment where they were getting their the last bit of money, and there was a slight difference in what was estimated as the project was being done and what actually was put in, and that's where those 7 items came up. So it is completely done at this time.
All right, thank you.
And if I may just add a comment there, Beth, and to the board, we often get in positions where we're closing out projects with some change orders right at the last, or change orders to close out projects. And, Russell, correct me if I'm wrong here, but, these estimates and such on the bid docs and on the engineering documents and such, those are going to be estimates. And then as we do the project management and the engineering inspection in the field, having that kind of check and balance with the contractor saying, hey, here's what we put in, us doing the inspection, whether hired or internally. And that's where some of that just gets worked out on a, in those conversations of, and the engineering inspection. So just a little more background there.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Are there any public comments on this item?
I don't see any.
All right. Seeing no public comments, is there a motion on this item?
I move approval of change order number 4 for the West Allen Traffic Calming Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, approve construction inspection contract with Shrewsbury and Associates LLC for downtown alleys repaving project.
Good evening. This is Roy Ayton with the Planning and Transportation Department. This project will improve the downtown alleys and the square blocks between College, Walnut, 6th and 7th, and between Walnut and Washington, 6th and 7th. The improvements will include resurfacing, replacement of alley aprons, and some minor drainage improvements. Shrewsbury and Associates LLC was selected to perform the construction inspections for this project. The compensation for these inspection services is set at a not to exceed amount of $74,626.80. The staff has reviewed the agreement and we are recommending approval for the inspection contract.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
No, I don't have a question.
Any public comment on this item?
I don't see any raised hands or chats for public comment.
Seeing no public comment, is there a motion on this item?
I move approval of the construction inspection contract with Shrewsbury and Associates LLC for downtown alleys repaving project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have award contract for downtown alleys repaving project.
I think this one is mine again. This is the downtown alleys repaving project. Yesterday, Monday, August 31st, 2020, at the virtual meeting, the Board of Public Works, city staff opened sealed bids submitted for the downtown alleys repaving project. This project would reconstruct the alleys once again between 6th and 7th Street, College to Washington. The project will include new concrete alleys and improvement to the alley aprons. Also with this project, there's a maintenance of traffic plan. They'll utilize phasing for the construction in order to minimize the impact to the neighboring businesses. Additionally, temporary closures of sidewalks and alley entrances may be used in combination with walkarounds and detours, depending on the area and the impacts to the pedestrians. The board received 2 bids for the project. One bid was from Rivertown Construction LLC in the amount of $984,247.50. And they received the second bid from E&B Paving LLC in the amount of $661,200. The staff has received the bids and is recommending awarding the contract to E&B Paving LLC in an amount not to exceed $661,200.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
How did this compare to what you were expecting in terms of cost?
Mm-hmm.
We had an engineering estimate for the job. We were all kind of wary walking into the job with what we had for an engineering estimate. This bid did come in at 17% over the estimate. And the reason we had a hard time estimating the project was because it's a little bit different than most concrete jobs in the fact that it's in an alley and they have to tear out all the existing infrastructure and everything in their very confined space. And then they have to come back and put concrete into a confined space. So we had a hard time estimating. Even though the bid is at 17% over the estimate, we are comfortable with our estimate and comfortable with the bid amount for this project.
When do you plan to start the alley project? This fall?
If approved, we would like to go ahead and give a notice to proceed. So hopefully we can get construction started by the end of this month or earlier. And then what we would like to do is we'd like to finish the block directly north of the courthouse by the end of this year. And then we believe some of the construction may go into next year for the block to the east between Walnut and Washington, Walnut and Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Does the alley apron work help with accessibility issues like crossings or anything like that?
After construction, yeah, they will replace the ramps coming into them and then make it, everything will be ADA accessible for the pedestrian access routes. So yeah, in that sense, there'll be an improvement. During construction with the walkarounds and the detours and things like that, it'll be a little hard going, but after the project's completed, it'll be a big improvement.
Does this
And we
include
will-
lighting too? Was there lighting back there in the alleys?
Beth, it does not include lighting, but we've actually added some lighting in both of these blocks in the past 6 months or so.
Okay, good. Oh, all right, thank you. That's central, I think, in the alleys.
Mhm. I'll just add, if I may, Adam Wason here, Public Works Director. I want to just thank Roy and his efforts on this. We've got a lot of projects that we're juggling with, and getting this out to bid and everything was a heavy lift. So appreciate Roy's efforts. Want to also say, getting excited about alley projects is not something that the average person probably really thinks about. But when I think about our downtown, the improvements we've made on Kirkwood, improvements like these, where not only put some good pavement and concrete back down, it'll improve accessibility. We're looking for the block north of the square. The north-south alley will remain open to vehicles at all time. Currently, the east-west alley isn't passable by cars just based on the amount of trash cans, dumpsters, grease bins. But as we get this project wrapped up, it's an activation project. So we're talking with some of the businesses about, beautification and artwork and, making it more pleasant as a possible walking area. I can tell you the east-west alley is one of the worst alleys we've got from a cleanliness perspective right now with some of the tenants and some of the restaurants. And we're working with them very closely to say, hey, we want to keep these alleys clean. And projects like these will really highlight what you can make of downtown alleys. And we're excited about that.
We aren't reviewing any kind of maintenance of traffic or any changes to the right-of-way this evening. When do you think that will come to us?
Roy?
Yeah, actually, with this approval, the board's approving their contract to do the reconstruction work. At the same time, you are approving kind of the maintenance of traffic plan. That's kind of why I wanted to put it in the staff report, just to give you a heads up that with this approval, you will be approving the closure of the alleys and the phased, and then the temporary closures of the sidewalks.
Do we have any idea of what the sidewalk, the alternate pathways are going to be for those sidewalk closures?
In the project right now, as it's phased through, they will end up closing at the alley entrances, the sidewalks. We have put into the project walkarounds for each of those. So in the bid, there's actually a walk around that they have to maintain. I know that the contractors have already asked whether or not they could eliminate a couple of those walkarounds. We told them at this point, no, but we will look at them as we go on. I think there may be opportunities for some temporary closures real quick, but as of right now, the plan is that there'll be walkarounds.
And what I'll say too is I'll commit, with any requests that would be to remove the walkarounds. We know the importance right now and the focus on that in the downtown, especially we want to provide those safe access ways and pedestrian walkways. We will, before we would approve any reduction of walkarounds or removal of walkarounds, I'd make sure to do a staff report to the board or ask for, get the board involved at that time. And given all the focused conversation there, that's certainly something we can commit to.
Thanks. And I think you said this earlier, but what is the expected time frame? Like, when do you expect that this project will wrap up if everything goes as planned?
The contract itself is for 120 calendar days. So once we issue the notice to proceed, which will hopefully be within 2 weeks, they will have 120 days to complete the project. That will take them up through November 30th. Then the project may winter out by contract. They're allowed to kind of lay off the project and then begin again in April 1st. So it depends how hard they come in at it. Maybe they can get all of it done beforehand, but the contract itself will be for 120 days, which will probably take them up through May of 2021.
And we don't anticipate any impacts on the some of the temporary components we have going on right now, like the loading zone, 15-minute parking, or the little
Parklets.
seating parklets. Yeah.
There could be, there might be some impacts to that. Those are only, Grazie will be, I think we're going to put a parklet there, and Grazie requested one and got their application approved. So there may be some slight modifications, but overall, I don't see a major impact there.
Okay, thanks.
And I just had a question about the comment, Adam, about like some trash bins and other things that are located in the alley for local restaurants and businesses. Like, have we communicated with them on temporary replacement or?
Yeah, so we've been, it's been, back in the fall of last year when we first started, summer and fall of last year when we first started having these conversations about the projects. So we'll begin, the part of the Shrewsbury contract that you approved is some of that outreach and assistance and on the ground kind of coordination day to day between the contractors and the businesses. Shrewsbury will play a key part there, but over these next couple weeks, we're going to be pulling folks together. Roy mentioned the phasing, so the way the concrete's going to need to be poured, we'll be closing certain sections of the alley. We may close the west section of the alley, and so all the trash bins that are there are going to need to go to the eastern. So there's going to be a lot of coordination. Nobody really gets deliveries in those alleys at this point. It's more of just container placement and such. And just to further that, we've come up with a registration system for all of the containers and carts that go into the alleyways. We've been really yesterday was a painful Monday with the tenants in one of the buildings leaving a pile of trash unlike I'd seen before. So we are, with the registration of the carts and everything, we can identify if we have, folks that aren't keeping things clean. And we have every right to tell them that they are not allowed to keep those in the right of way. We don't want to get to that point. We want to get to a, point where everybody's keeping things clean. As part of this, with, power washing the backs of buildings and removing graffiti and really, making it a showcase type alley in the sense that, if these improvements are made and then it starts getting trashed with heaps and piles of illegal dumping, because that's what it is, we'll handle that swiftly and continue to be on that. So thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam, for that update. That sounds really good, keeping in touch with the business owners to keep the alley clean.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the business owners aren't the major problem right now.
Okay.
We've had a couple instances in the past where, some of the restaurants just needed a reminder, but it's the tenants. It was just move-in, and there were more Amazon Prime boxes and 55-inch large screen TV boxes than anyone ever needs to illegally dump in an alley.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board on this item? Any public comment on this item?
I don't see any.
All right. Seeing none, is there a motion from the board?
I move that we award the contract for downtown alleys repaving project to E&B Paving for $661,200.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approve extension of Lower Cascades conversion pilot project to June 30th of 2021.
All righty. This is going to be me. Oh, Paula's here.
I'm
Yay.
here.
Yeah, Paula was running late in a board meeting for parks, and I thought I was gonna.
I had him all queued up, and then
I was ready.
I was done, and you were very focused, so I just remained muted and video down, so not to distract. But thank you.
You go
Adam
ahead.
had my
Paula.
back, but I'm here, so thank you very much. I am here this evening to recommend approval of extending the time frame for the Lower Cascades Road Conversion Pilot Project to June 30th, 2021. Just a little background on this project. This particular park is one of several public amenities that have benefited from bicentennial funding. Back in 2018, Lower Cascades Park Trail was identified as a spot that would be great to add to our network of trails for connectivity. We have additional projects underway in Lower Cascades. And back on March 3rd, this board approved a pilot road conversion project where we took a portion of the road and have shut it down and encourage people to access this road for either biking or walking or running, just to use it in a different way. Of course, with any pilot project, it was important that we collect feedback. And so at the same time that we launched the pilot project back on March 13th, we also launched and made public a survey encouraging the community to go down and use this particular piece of the road that is now part of the pilot to experience it and give us our feedback on what their experience was as far as accessing it, parking, were they visiting other places in the park while they walked this particular part of the trail. It's important to note at this point that none of us could have predicted that COVID-19 pandemic would hit exactly at the same time. In fact, the community was shutting down days before this pilot was scheduled to launch, but we went ahead with the pilot and actually have seen across the Parks Department an uptick of people seeking outdoor spaces for physical activity during the pandemic. All throughout the pilot as well, we have been, in addition to collecting the survey results, we have been in communication with several residents, particularly in District 2, sharing the pilot project, sharing the survey, listening to their feedback. We have also been doing downloads of the survey on a monthly basis and posting that on the park's website and responding to comments that we were getting, whether it was how the barricades were placed, not enough signage, just improvements. So we've been trying to make improvements along the way. Some of the feedback we also received was that this was maybe not a great time to run a pilot project, that the community basically shut down, schools were out, the traffic patterns were changed up, and some of the feedback was how reliable was this such a good time to do it. We stand by the increased use that we saw and giving the community an additional outlet to be physically active. But having listened to that, we are here, and this is what brings us here today. We would like to extend this pilot project. We're still in the pandemic. We are still making very cautious decisions about staying home and staying in place. And we at the Parks Department continue to see a lot of people accessing outdoor spaces. And so we would like to extend this pilot project to June 30th of next year. We would continue the survey that is in place and run a parallel survey specifically directed at people who normally drive through the park. Again, referencing back to the feedback that we received from either constituents or on the survey. There are a number of people that use this part of the road in the park to get from point A to point B. They don't stop necessarily and use the park, but they use it to access other areas of the community. And so we would put together and run a parallel survey put signage out and really drive those people who drive through the park to fill out that survey and continue to report back to this board those survey results and continue to respond to feedback that we're getting. I'm going to actually share my screen, hopefully successfully. I don't know who the host is, Adam, to allow me to share my screen.
Paula, if you just want the pictures, I can probably share mine.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, if you could, I put together some slides of additional signage that we have put up just recently in the past week. We got some feedback from a citizen who had trouble finding parking. So we added some parking signs to the barricades. I think there was some miscommunication, people thinking that the parking lots were closed down in Lower Cascades, and indeed the parking lots have been open the whole time. So I draw your attention to the first slide. We can make it perfect. This red sign this is at the north, I'm sorry, this should be at the south entrance, but just indicating that there is extra parking under the overpass. So we are getting feedback, people accessing the park from the south, they would see these detour signs and they'd be right upon the barricade and not know where to park. And this sign encourages people to keep on going, and there's parking under the overpass and you can access the pilot portion of the project from the south end. If you go to the next slide, Adam. This is on the north entrance. Again, we put this new sign up just to indicate that yes, the road is open to the playground parking lots. And that means that if you also are renting the Sycamore shelter or the waterfall shelter, the parking lots are open and you can access them that way. And then the final one, and you're gonna have to, the final, and now Adam, when I looked at it, they were all right.
I didn't do anything.
I don't know what happened.
Don't blame me.
But if you could just turn that sign around, this is the sign that is up that explains the project, and there's also a QR code taking people directly to the survey. And certainly we would update this so that people who wanted to fill out the I Drive Through the Park survey would have access to the survey as well. And you can take that down now, Adam. We did do a survey poll just over the weekend at the end of the month, and just some highlights from the survey. To date, we've had 328 people respond to the survey. The majority, 76%, have no problem accessing the park and finding parking. The park is visited mostly on Saturdays and Sundays. We continue to get some feedback on safety. The most recent one was motorcyclists cited going through the pilot portion of the road, and we are working with staff on that, some additional signage, because we do not want motorcycles on this part of the pilot. And then in addition, and you can keep paging down, we are continuing to see an upward trend in people wanting this pilot, the full road closure, and that's a little bit more, Adam, and you can see the graph here. So the blue line on the graph trending that people do want the full closure, and the bright red line, people who do not want the closure, and then we have some people who are neutral, some that mostly do not want, and mostly who do want. But as you can see, it continues to be popular, but again, with all of the factors, I'll go back just quickly and review the fact that it was COVID and the community usage of this park changed a little bit. We would just really like to continue the pilot and continue to collect survey information and run this parallel survey as well to get some feedback from people who again access the park, just drive through the park. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. There's several members of our team. This is a team effort with Planning and Transportation, Bike and Ped, our department, Dave Williams, and Jess Klein, our Health and Wellness Coordinator. So we would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate your updating us on the motorcycle situation. How do you plan to create more barriers so that the motorcycles cannot drive through?
Well, that is something that we're looking at. We've also looked at the municipal code regarding motorcycles in these areas. It may be with signage, but in the past 2 days, I have contacted several city staff, and we're addressing that situation.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll take a few more board questions. And then if you're a member of the public wishing to comment, if you will please either raise your hand in the Zoom function or put in the chat that you're interested in making public comment. That'll help us bring you up so that you can make your comment.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. Right now, I've got Carol Canfield will be up first, Paul Kern second, and Mark Stosberg third right now.
Okay. With the survey and the sort of parallel survey that's happening, I know when we spoke at the meeting earlier in August, there were some questions about the question about people's preferences as to how the roadway would be either converted or not. And there was some ambiguity in the wording of the question. Do you know what the main question or questions will be on the parallel survey and what that might look like for those who are planning to take that survey?
Sure, I do have a draft, and one of the questions is, how do you mostly interact with Cascades Park before the beginning of the road conversion pilot project? And they can mark drove a car or motorcycle to the park to do something, drove a car or motorcycle through the park for enjoyment, used it as an alternative route, or if they jogged or just they've never visited the park before the pilot project. How would you categorize the impact to you of the road conversion pilot? And they can respond from very negative to very positive. And then we have a second section, reference your answer to the previous question. How would you categorize the impact to you of the pilot on the scale from negative to very positive? Please provide some information about why you chose the category that you selected. And is there any other information about the pilot project you would want us to know? And then in email from Blue Ridge Neighborhood Association recent meeting, putting a question in there like, do you want it closed or do you want it open? And just a black and white question that way. So again, this is in draft, but very much targeting people who drive through the park and use it to get from point A to point B.
Great, thanks. And I know the neighborhood associations and probably some district communications will be the ways that you get this survey out. Are there other ways that you plan on ensuring that drivers get it, since it's a little bit more difficult to, potentially scan a QR code or something while you're driving through the area? Are there some ways that you all plan in the Parks Department to share it with motorists specifically?
Yeah, we have a pretty comprehensive social media marketing plan and have been successful in communicating a lot of our projects and getting feedback. Right now, our master plan process is underway and we're using it to drive people to a survey. So we would give that to our community relations team to get it out on social, also on our website, out to the neighborhood associations, neighborhood, through their newsletters and all of that. We would do a comprehensive sweep to make sure the information got out.
Other questions from the board at this time? All right, we will go ahead and move to public comment, and Adam has been tracking those requests. Again, if you are interested in making public comment and you have not yet made a comment in the chat or raised your hand in the Zoom function, please do that so we can make sure to open up your mic for comment.
I've got Carol Canfield. They use this account. She's ready to go.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. First of all, I want to thank Paula for coming to our neighborhood association meeting and listening to what we had to say there. I appreciate the fact that you're doing an additional survey to address the concerns that we had. We are stuck in Blue Ridge in terms of getting out of our neighborhood when we have game days or other city events. It's the only way we can get out of our addition, because both Dunn and Walnut are backed up, is to go down through Cascades if we want to get anywhere in town or to any other part of town, unless we want to drive all the way 7 miles north and take Sample Road and turn around and come back. I'm thinking that this is not the time to be doing this experiment. We still have the COVID mandates in place. It's not a realistic situation. It really doesn't address the situation honestly. Of course, you're going to have greater attendance at the parks because other things are shut down. So what's left to do except go to the park? And that's great, but it's not realistic in terms of when our town is at its peak, during ball game times, during other events in the city that bring traffic to Bloomington. And we simply have to have a way to get out of our addition. And if you close Cascades, we're stuck. Maybe a different time when we're back open again and non-COVID going, that would be the time to do this project. But right now, you're not going to get honest, realistic answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, do you want to bring the next person up?
We've got Paul Kern up.
Thank you.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. I guess the question I've got is, because we're going to do these two surveys, what would Paula envision the survey looking like if the answer would result in the Lower Cascades going open, not staying closed but going open? What kind of data would she be looking at for that? What scenario would that be? That's what I'm trying to find out. There's only one question that says whether it's open or not. Would that be the one that would be, because I'm not sure that would really reflect the sentiment of because there's so many other data. I'm not sure, so I'm kind of unclear about that.
Well, Paul, there is questions on a room on the survey for people to comment. And that's been very helpful in the survey downs that we've been doing to date. We've had a lot of people take the time to actually write some comments and give us feedback that way.
So for that to happen, then you would have to have an overwhelming number of comments that would say, I want the road open. That would be the way it would work. If the data would show that people want the road open, that would be it through the comments. And that one question.
Right, and we'll be looking at all of the data that comes in and evaluating it and looking at the numbers and the graphs and the comments and all of that. I don't know if that's answering your question, but as I said, we're putting this out to get the feedback. I can't say what's going to tip it one way or the other.
And I want to say something to the board. I've listened to Paula talk on several occasions. Not only is the question—
Ma'am, sorry, can you please state your name for the record?
It's Linda Kern.
Linda Kern, okay, thank you.
And I've spoken to Paula on several occasions, and I've had training in how to make a survey. Not only is the question completely misleading and really poorly written, but she read aloud how she would indicate this is a positive response. And literally, if someone said, I like the Bloomington Parks Department, she read that as an answer to close the road. And so I think the board needs to actually look at her data and how she's interpreting it and not allow her to interpret it for you, because she's not doing so in an accurate way. And
we thank you for your comment. Next up, we've got Mark Stosberg.
Hello,
Yes, Mark, you're up.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Mark Stosberg. I volunteer on the Bicycle Pedestrian Safety Commission. We've gotten a number of updates about this project, mostly positive. I'm also a parent. I've biked with my kids to this park before. I've also visited it since the closure. And I can tell you personally, there's a big difference in the comfort level. It was so much less stressful. We slowed down and noticed a lot more details when we were able to get through that section on our bikes without the traffic. And for us on a bike, this went from having 0 comfortable ways to get there to having some way to get there. So that made a big difference. I think I also agree with the surprise of the timing. It wasn't known that the pandemic was going to happen, and it does make sense to collect more information. And from a feasibility perspective, it does seem to make more sense to keep it open, to extend the trial, and to shut it down and reopen it at another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I don't see any other raised hands or any other comments in the
We did have Mallory who mentioned speaking to this matter.
Yep, I got Mallory. Mallory, you should be unmuted. This is Mallory with Planning and Transportation, I believe.
Yeah, that is correct. So I just wanted to speak on behalf of the survey instrument, which was provided. I am on the group of City Hall staff that is working on this project, and I worked with the survey creation and basically the evaluation of the overall project. And in addition to the survey instrument that we provided to kind of gauge the thoughts, feelings, and perceptions of people who were interested in the project, who had gone out to see it, we've also been taking counts of people who have been visiting the trails, walkers and cyclists, and we have been gathering that data since the trial started. And so what we would like to see is an increase in people walking and biking so that we can see, how are these patterns changing over the course of the year, as well as how do they compare with the other trails that we are seeing around town for which we have counters. So that also lends a little bit of nuance to our decision making. And so that's something that we're looking at as well.
Thank you.
So Mallory, how might, if we extend this, we're getting into the winter months. I know we're extending it to June, but there'll be several months in there that I assume folks won't be utilizing the parks because of weather. Can you speak to how that might impact those numbers?
Right. Well, we may see dips like we see with many of the trails when there are inclement weather situations. However, when the pandemic started, we thought that we would see a dip in the amount of people that were on the trails in Bloomington because of the students being gone. However, that has not been the case. We've seen a rise in the level of people who are on the beeline. And so because of social distancing practices being the order of the day, it seems that people are going out to spaces where they can walk more frequently. And we would expect to see those patterns resemble what we're seeing at Lower Cascades Park.
Kyla, I don't see any other requests for public comment, either in the raise hand function or the Zoom chat.
All right, thank you. And just for sort of closing clarification, this request is to continue the study. So this is not a request to make a decision on the closure of the road permanently, but rather a continuation of the study given the circumstances that we've encountered and the desire to modify and improve the survey process, targeting drivers in particular. So that's what we're here to decide this evening. Any final questions or other comments from the board?
No.
I think I'd just say, like, I love the idea of like expanding our pedestrian and bike access routes. I think that's great. I do think it's weird that it's, during a kind of unforeseen pandemic, and we might get some skewed numbers. But I do think since we don't have those large events that truly impact a lot of those drivers that use this as an alternate route, hopefully that's not as impactful to them during this time. So I think, yeah, I like the idea of expanding this and getting more information. And, hopefully at that in June, we'll be able to have a little bit better of an understanding of what those folks that use this route with their cars, how they feel about it. So yeah, I think I'll be voting in favor of it.
Thank you. With that, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve extension of Lower Cascades conversion pilot project to June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have installation of flooring at Fire Training and Logistics Center.
Good evening, everyone. Adam Wason again, Public Works Director for the City of Bloomington. Pretty straightforward one here. We solicited quotes for the installation of some new flooring at the fire department, at one of the fire department stations. We received back 3 quotes on that from, I'm trying to get to it, I apologize. Moriarty floor coverings, Bounds flooring, and Hoosier color and tile. And whoops, scrolling to a blank screen. Hang on. If Jackie didn't put so many legal documents in here, it would be easier to scroll through. So yes, this is the agreement with Hoosier Floor Covering. They were the low quote for the installation of flooring at the Fire Training and Logistics Center. Their low quote came in at $8,689.88. Moriarty was $11,111.66, and Bounds Flooring was $11,855.44. So we respectfully request approval of awarding this to Hoosier Floor Covering Inc., doing business as Carpets Plus Color Tile.
Thanks. Questions from the board on this item? Beth, did you have a question?
No, I don't. No.
All right. Any public comment on this item?
I do not see any showing up in the chat, and I do not see any hands raised, and we've had most of the people leave the meeting. So I think we are good to go with no public comment.
All right. Seeing no public comment, is there a motion on this item?
I move
approval of a contract. Go ahead.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, I move approval of a contract with Hoosier Floor Covering doing business as Carpets Plus Color Tile for installation of flooring at Fire Department Training and Logistics Center for $8,689.88.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is staff reports and other business.
Just very brief staff report this evening. Wanted to mention some ongoing projects and just kind of, brag on ourselves a little bit. Our street department's been busy for the last several weeks and months and throughout this COVID situation, but we've been working every day. We've gotten more paving and more projects done than we have in years past because of traffic being down. The Kirkwood project went really great, but then we've done some paving here around campus. We got 10th Street, we got Washington Street. We've gotten the north side of the square. We're down on Rogers by the new Switchyard Park. We've gotten out to Park Ridge East. We've gotten up to the northwest side. And just overall the efforts of the street department. Just want to thank Joe Van Devender, Danny Bittner, Herb Kinzer, Mike Stinson, and all the crews down there. They've really been getting after it this summer, and I think it really shows with not only the quantity of work, but the quality of work they're doing. We often in Public Works, have policy discussions, whether it's with city council or others about, investing in, new infrastructure and, things like protected bike lanes and new side paths and things. And, Public Works fully in support, but a lot of what we do is the maintenance side. We don't build as much as we maintain. And, we've been having some really interesting discussions with the Planning and Transportation Department, their staff, as well as, as part of the 2021 budget proposal, the engineering division of Planning and Transportation would break out into its own actual department, which many cities do. And so just want to, not only brag on our efforts, but let everyone know, we're implementing transportation plan, at the comprehensive those guiding documents and being part of those conversations, although, Public Works may not actually build those out as the responsible city department, but do fully appreciate those efforts. And I think the Cascades project is a really good example of, us all working together. One thing we've seen from whether it's the Strong Towns group that's a really good resource for public officials like myself, and whether it's the American Public Works Association or other professional organizations, with COVID opening up more traditional car-centric roadways to alternative uses is something that professionals across the country and world are highly suggesting at this time. You can see that with the parklets, the Lower Cascade project, et cetera. And I think, it's neat to see. It's exciting to see how it's working. It's great to get the feedback. And, in the end, it's trying to balance all those perspectives. So I just appreciate the way the board was able to have that conversation this evening and in an ongoing way. When someone like me gets excited about alley projects, it's, probably, a little nerdy, but at the same time, it's the fun stuff that we get to do. So I appreciate everything from the board. Just want to say thanks to all the 100+ employees of the Public Works Department and thank them for all of their efforts. And, we're just trying to continue to stay safe and stay healthy and keep doing what we do. So thank you very much.
Thanks. And thanks to everyone who's been working on the projects. And I can say I'm equally excited about the alleys, Adam.
Oh, you're turning into one of those Public Works folks.
All right. Next up is claim. Are there any questions on claims from the board?
No.
Is there a motion on claims?
I move approval of claims $1,169,827.13.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And if there's nothing else on the agenda this evening, I will call for adjournment.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, I love the parks. I mean, I think the parks are just phenomenal in this town, and especially the new Switchyard and the number of people that are using it. Every time I'm down there, there's lots of people there, kids using it, families. It's a marvelous addition to our city park system.
The Wason kiddos love it.
I'm sure they do. It's marvelous. I'm just like, and the kids the other day when it was really hot in the splash pad or whatever they call it, it was really wonderful seeing these kids, and they were just having a great time splashing around in that. It's great.
That's a project we'll be proud of for many years to come, I think. So
Absolutely. It's great. Thank you. Thanks for all your updates. It's good. Thanks, everybody.
Have a
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
did you actually
Bye, Dana.
move for
Yep.
adjournment?
I did. We're now official.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to
I
Katz
waited
and
until
all your
after
efforts.
adjournment. Yes. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.